Hello everyone, I'm Bookbird, and today I will be doing my October wrap-up. So cheers, let's get started. So first, because I'm new to BookTube, I just wanted to share I have been doing a journal for my reading, but if you want me to go in depth with how I've been doing a reading journal in the past, I'll show that in a different video. But for today, we're just focusing on October. So the very first book that I read was The Hounding. The Hounding, I am not going to know how to pronounce this person's first name, so by Purvis. I gave this one a 3-star. I'll go ahead and put up my Goodreads rating like I did for my last video. And it was definitely a very atmospheric read because it takes place like in the English countryside, I believe. It does kind of remind me of The Crucible, which is one of the publishing blurbs for it. I've never read The Virgin Suicide, so I couldn't compare it to that, but it does give me Crucible vibes, like the Salem witch trials kind of vibes. This takes place in a very small town in the English countryside, and like all small towns, they have their rumors, and everyone knows everyone. But the specific rumor in this small countryside town is that there's these odd little girls all in one family, that a rumor is started that this man, he said one night he saw one of them change into a dog. And from there, you get the whole rumor mill with the town, and so they start believing these girls are changing into dogs. And the one thing about this book is it constantly kept you as the reader questioning everything, questioning yourself, like, is this rumor actually true? Is this man believable? Are these girls just somehow caught up in this kind of prejudice of behaving differently than the townspeople think they should? It's really not super thriller-esque. It's definitely like a lit fic, historical fiction mystery. I also noted in my review and in my journal that I really did like the character work in this book. So if you want more like of a thought-provoking and like character-driven story, that's what The Hounding is, besides just having kind of like strange vibes of the town. And also, the cover is immediately what drew this, because I feel like you can always get an artist to buy your book if you put paintings on the cover. Alright, the next book is, because I have the Broken Binding edition, I finished To Green Angel Tower. I always want to call it The Green Angel Tower, but it's 2, T-O. I finally completed this trilogy, this first section of the Austen Ard epic fantasy, I guess, because there's a continuation now, which I'm super excited that I get to read more in this world after finishing. I gave this book 5 stars. The ending was not at all what I expected, and I loved it. And not revealing specific characters, but be warned that this author, Tad Williams, is not afraid for people to die, and you will get character deaths in these books. And it's a love-hate thing, because specifically with the next book I talk about, sometimes you start to love that specific character and then they're gone. But then you also enjoy the fact that the author is brave enough to do that to his characters, because if we as the reader love them that much, how much more does the writer love those characters if they're spending hours upon hours building these characters and worlds for us? How much more it's probably heartbreaking for them to be like, yeah, now I gotta write this death scene for this character. If I ever had to write that, I would probably put myself in a depressive state. So immediately after this, I needed more, and I already had the novella because I got it. If you have an Ollie's near you, you should check it out every so often for their book section, because the fantasy books are usually stocked up, at least at mine, because still people don't gravitate towards fantasy books. But I found this at Ollie's and was able to have it handy for when I was gonna get a book hangover if I didn't read something else from this world. So, as you can see, I tabbied, so I enjoyed it. I gave this one a 4-star. It follows, I may butcher fantasy names going forward, so just bear with me. It's Isgrimnar, and the quest they're set on after to Green Angel Tower. They get put on a quest. Originally, I had thought it was just going to be about him, specifically from his point of view, but I was surprised to find there's actually 3 POVs in this. It is very battle scene heavy, if that's not something you like to read, but it's not in a way that you lose interest because of all those different POVs. They're usually about different things happening. So I actually gravitated toward even more of side characters, and that was what I found with To Green Angel Tower in that series. I gravitated towards side characters more than I did who was supposed to be the main character of the story. This was probably the one that tore me up the most over a death, because he had me liking a character and then the character was no more. When meeting some of the characters, I guessed a death based on just knowing certain plot tropes and stuff. I was like, oh no, this person is probably gonna die. And Tad did a really good job of the unexpected, and I was completely wrong, and he does a switcheroo that I wasn't expecting, and that also made this book stand out a lot more. And also, as with the ending of To Green Angel Tower, the random last little twist of a hey, you didn't know this was gonna happen thing or like to like tie in all the loose ends together. He did a good job on this ending as well, even though it's a lot, like, it's basically one complete story in this novella, which is, I think, 200 pages. Yeah. It does give you, like, glossary and then just kind of basic lore at the back if you kind of need a summary for lore specific stuff for this. So basically you have a refresher if you don't get obsessed like me and want to continue right away and want to pick something else up. You have kind of a little reminder at the back of the book. I read Max Lucado's Tame Your Thoughts. This was a NetGalley e-arc. I'm behind on when it actually came out. It came out in August, and I finally got through it because I was taking it piece by piece, because I feel like with Christian nonfiction books, you can take them like one little chapter at a time with the supplement of reading the Bible. So Tame Your Thoughts by Max Lucado is all about getting rid of those negative and toxic thoughts, and that those thoughts are from the enemy. And then it explains that, but also ways to stop those intruding thoughts as in Christian methods. So if you're not a Bible-believing Christian, I don't think this book would do anything for you, because it is very backed by scripture, trying to give you verses to memorize that will help you when you have these negative thoughts, and to remind you that they're negative thoughts and they're not from God. And I think I gave this book a 4-star. I didn't give it a 5, mostly because when he cited some scripture, he was using the translation of the Message, MSG. I don't know how to explain translations really, but this one for me is like, it's too simplified in the way that taking it from Latin or Greek, like, you're not really watering it down, because that's almost a different term in Christianity, but like you're extracting meaning from these words, and I just don't like that specific translation. If you're a new Christian, I think it can be helpful, but also you need the other translations. But that was the only issue I had with this. So if you're kind of looking for ways to get over negative thinking, or you're just feeling kind of a dark moment right now, I definitely recommend picking this book up. Max Lucado is a pretty decent author, non-Christian, Christian living author to pick up. As far as I've read from him, he's a pretty decent one to pick. That was my Christian nonfiction for the month. And now we might get into a few hot takes, maybe, depending on how you feel about Brandon Sanderson. I have only gotten to a few of the secret projects that he had the original Kickstarter for, Tress and Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. So I still had the Sunlit Man to get to, and then I still have the Wizard's Guide one. I get some audiobooks through Chirp, which is a cheaper option for audiobooks. They'll have sales every so often on audiobooks that you can get for like less than $5. And one of the sales they had a while ago was on some of the Brandon Sanderson stuff. So I got a bunch of the graphic audiobooks because they have a full cast, and I've never tried that before. I've always gone with the usual Michael Kramer, Kate Redding narration through Libby. I tried Sunlit Man through Graphic Audio. Graphic Audio, great choice, by the way. I don't know if I'll ever go back. The main character of this novella is connected to the Cosmere, and I think other booktubers have stated if you haven't caught up on the Cosmere, you probably shouldn't read this one. And I would also say that I would read the final Stormlight book before reading this one, because I'm glad I did push through that. The section that this person is in, I'm glad I read it myself, because I was able to determine this person before it was revealed through dialogue. And I also think that it would slightly be a spoiler if you read this first. Although I'm actually not sure if this happened in Stormlight 5 or 4, because Stormlight 5 was mess full of events that were both important and not important. There's the one hot take. We follow Nomad onto this planet where they basically have to run away from the sun, and there are these side characters called Elegy and Rebecca, and I feel like I wanted to see and read their history rather than being told this is what happened to these characters in the past and how Nomad is meeting them now. This all happened before Nomad was here, kind of thing. And that was pretty much the overall thought with this one, without pushing spoilers. Like, I did enjoy the little Cosmere element, because I liked especially being able to connect it before we knew, but I also don't want that to be a constant thing happening. To enjoy a book for its singular purpose of being a full book or novella, than being connected to this other thing that has 5 books in its series, or in Brandon Sanderson's case, 14, maybe more than that, books. My rankings right now for the projects are Yumi first, Tress, and then Sunlit, based on the fact of being like the Cosmere crossover in this one is so heavy that it doesn't even feel like its own story, if that makes sense. It's almost like how Dawn Shard is a novella in between the Stormlight books, but it's a story about a person in the grand scheme of things, and then that person doesn't really show up a whole lot in the other books. So that's what this feels like, is it was supposed to be a novella in between the Stormlight books focused on a specific character without spoiling that character, but that's what it felt like. So I If you ever plan on picking this up, I would pick up graphic audio as the audiobook if you're able to, because I think that helped me get through this better with the full cast. And because I didn't have any Libby audiobook holds ready after I finished that, I picked up a different Chirp audiobook that was one of the free Fridays that they do. That was called The Witching Place. It's a series of cozy mysteries by Sophie Love. I think this one was a rough first start. I don't know if the author wasn't sure how she was gonna start out Lex, the main character, to go on her consecutive series of mysteries in this small town. So I think maybe the rest of the books will improve over time, because I only gave this a 2-star, which isn't like I go according to how Goodreads denotes their star rankings, which is, it was okay. It's 2-star, it was okay. I really liked the town and like the magical aspect and like the setting itself. I just did not understand the main character. There's a lot of flaws in the characterization and writing her, and a lot of the time she felt younger than she was. She's like supposed to be in her late 20s, but she acted like a teenager a lot of the time. Like I said, I think this author just didn't know how to start out this series. So I'm not going to write this series off yet, but I think it was just a little bit of a clunky, rough start for this series. But there were aspects that I did enjoy, and it was a good just background audiobook for me to play American Truck Simulator, because I've been doing their Halloween event, delivering candy. So it was just a good thing to have on in the background of that game. A little tidbit about me and my random games I like to play. And next, I finally got my Libby hold to come through, and that was The Last Party by Claire McIntosh. Pretty much put this on hold for the reason of, if you're familiar with Books and Lala, has a book title and cover challenge every year, and I'm trying to finish that up for this year. But The Last Party, I was familiar with Claire McIntosh as a author because I read a previous book by her. So this book is a detective mystery series. So if that's not your thing for mystery thrillers, this probably won't be for you as a pick, because I think from here on out it's just going to be a lot of detective work for these books. And this, The Last Party specifically, is centered around a very rich, famous lifestyle community that's on a lake that's set between Wales and England. There's a whole thing about jurisdiction and which detectives get to be a part of this case. So then DC Morgan has to team up with this other guy across the lake from England. And usually I'm not the type to enjoy the mystery thrillers around the rich and famous and all the drama that goes on between them. Like, I usually just don't care. And it becomes boring for me. I am not someone who likes the trash TV type stuff. So usually those don't interest me at all as soon as I hear that's what a book is about. But I wanted to stick this one out because I wanted to get to the later books in this series. But I found with the way that Mackintosh writes, which in my opinion is very well for drafting out and figuring out how her mysteries and thrillers will pan out. In this specific one, she does a really good job of jumping from future to past to have you fill in the complete story by the end, that I was constantly engaged in that aspect of it and getting the backstory to what happened this New Year's Eve night at this party and what happened after and the whole who did the murder, and that whole thing kept me interested. She is also, even from the previous book that I read by her, she is brilliant at getting you to really, really hate the villains. She makes them so unlikable, and they're also like very real villains because she puts like real dark aspects of life into her stories, real traumatic events, just real things that people can go through in their life, and have the real villains of their life. I would also put that as a content warning because it does get deep in stuff that I'm not going to spoil because it's a part of the whole thing. But it's the same with the other book I read by her, so I hope that it's well known that she does this in her books. And as of today, the 30th, I am almost done with this short story collection that I'm doing for my library challenge pick for the month. So I'll finish this before the end of the month, but I wanted to give my thoughts on this because I have a couple that I wrote down already. These stories are kind of hit or miss for me. They are older, like classic stories. It says they're tales of suspense, so I think I would agree with that more than them being like super scary. If you want more of a chill like experience with some Halloween stories, Halloween vibes, then I think these would be good. They're basically a range from like 70s, 90s. I think there was one written in the 40s. There's an Edgar Allan Poe that I had to skip. I should have heeded the little blurb at the front, giving kind of a little, so not like each one has a little like blurb about what the next story is gonna pertain to. And the Edgar Allan Poe one mentioned if you're a cat lover, you probably shouldn't read it. Yes, I would agree with that. It was The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. So if you're familiar, I could not stomach that one, but I may be staying away from his writing if a lot of it is like The Black Cat, because I don't know that I remember it being as like traumatic. But the stories that I have read and liked already are the Lemures. Lemures. I had to look up how to say this word because I was unfamiliar, and even I made myself laugh while reading it because I didn't want to look it up while reading it, and I just call it the lemurs, which is funny because they're basically zombies. But it's basically like a Roman detective solving this case of this man who's supposed to be dead appearing in the town to these people. So that one was really interesting. It wasn't, like I said, most of these aren't scary. They're just like have the themes of being good Halloween stories. The next one I enjoyed is called The Cloak. I should probably be telling you authors, since a lot of them are classic authors. So the Lemures, eventually I'll probably pronounce that correctly if I pronounce it in a bunch of different ways, is by Stephen Saylor. The Cloak is by Robert Bloch. And The Cloak is basically a vampire story, and it's also about a mystical, magical costume shop. I'll let you find that story and not spoil it for you. This next one was like an extra short story. It was called Yesterday's Witch, and it's basically the whole like, don't go to that creepy old lady's house, lady is a witch, or that house is haunted, that kind of trope. Like I said, again, nothing super scary, but I am enjoying the ones that are a little less grotesque, and I've recently just been enjoying those types of books in general, to have less blood and gore and the slasher kind of stuff. This has been a good one to pick up, and I'm glad I did. That's been my wrap up for October. These are the 4 physical reads I got through, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to do these a lot more often since I now am new to BookTube. I actually have a place I can talk about them instead of just keeping them in my journal. And please subscribe if you want to see more from me. I'm still learning the difference between doing BookTube and ArtTube. I don't think that we've ever called that a thing, but artist YouTube. So bear with me trying to edit and figure out what works and what doesn't work. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.